there's a couple things we're looking at. One of the problems is that you guys are aware of. In order to clear out the 3 restrooms that are here, you have to get a 6,000-gallon pumper truck all the way out here.
And out.
And out. It's got stuck last year. Here,
They didn't have chains.
right? You mentioned that, or at least on the website. But so that's always a challenge. It takes essentially 2 days, and we actually all of Death Valley National Park. We have over 100 pump toilets. This is only 3 of them. We have 2 operators. We have 2 guys that run 1 truck. That truck is down a quarter of the time because it's old. So it's a challenge to spend essentially a couple of days. It takes a long time to get out and clear the truck. So how do we make that better? We can add more restrooms. That's kind of an easy one as there's more usage. But the other thing, and this is where we talk about wastewater, and I know Benoit and I have talked about this a number of times, but is there a way that you can make a sustainable wastewater system, whether that's a leach field or some kind of a treatment system or a cistern, that could use the water that's here that you don't have to come out as often to maintain it, without buying more maintenance that's just going to break down all the time and have somebody have to come out and maintain it. Like, what are you trading for a truck? So that's when we talk about wastewater, this is a long-winded answer to your question, but trying to find a more sustainable way to treat the water that's also used, which rolls in with what they were talking about, is also the county and the state consider the lightly chlorinated runoff from the 20 pools to be wastewater. So we're in violation every time you clean the pool. We're in violation from the dishwashing sink and the shower because they're from a concentrated area. So all of those things have to be addressed. If there's a way to treat the bathroom water at the same time, that to me seems glorious if it's low enough maintenance that we're not just trading pumper truck guys for engineers that have to come and treat the system.
So I just want to say I do hear and fully appreciate what you're saying, but I also want to just reiterate that traditionally, you're talking about traditionally, there have been more than 1 outhouse up there. And so I guess I would just invoke, historical, as well as the pragmatics you're speaking of.
I'm wondering if the vision that the Park Service has for the campgrounds and campsites is much different than what it looks like today. And if so, what is the vision? Is it going to be something more organized, or is it just going to be very similar to what we see in today?
Well, I think that's still that's gonna be a plan that comes into place. So, I mean, just in general, the idea is to try to define those boundaries a little bit more so you don't have people driving off road and creating further impacts that are spreading throughout the area. So the idea is that you'll have enough camping options to accommodate the people, the user groups that are coming through here, but they're just going to be defined and a little bit more organized. But beyond that, I can't say like it'll be this many acres or this is what's going to happen yet, because we're still too early on in that phase, and we need to better understand visitor usage here and what Ceiling Valley really needs from these numbers. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that's kind of the gist I got, is that we're still in that early phase of what we need for camping, and then we'll move forward with that.
I think part of the beauty of coming here is to meet up with friends and different vehicles and then choose your spot. And that's part of the attraction.
First camping. For sure. So there is a plan, and kind of what that plan references, that there's going to be an idea of a car camping area. So you can meet up with friends and set up next to each other. And then for folks who want to set up tents and be a little bit further away from vehicles, there can be an area where we call it walk-up tent camping, essentially. So there'll be a main parking area and then a spot for you to walk away and set up your tent there. Some people prefer that. So it's just trying to provide as many options as possible to experience Ceiling Valley with your campgrounds.
What does an existing palm tree mean?
Don't
Careful what you
palm
ask
tree.
for.
So that next, if you look to your left, that would be an existing mature palm tree.
What about the one down by the pond?
If it's like this, it's
Yeah.
probably
Or size.
not so
But
much.
do you have a specific number and how they'll be determined?
That's a good question for the palm tree guy. Maybe.
No is the answer.
The answer is at this point, no. There's not a specific number. So right now, like you can see around here, there are seedlings growing up in a few places. Those would probably be immediately removed with the assistance of SPA. But in terms of, I'm not sure what tree it's related to down there, but certainly the tall trees around us, we can see these are all mature trees that will remain until maybe July.
Will there be a determination specifically at some point of what the size means?
Well, certainly there will be.
Okay.
There's certainly better horticulturists than myself who will come in who have a lot of good experience with palm tree maintenance, palm tree control, who will provide recommendations to us. So, as Mike was suggesting, probably smaller palm trees that are juveniles that have not yet been fully established and aren't mature, those are likely to be removed, whereas the mature trees will stay.
Thank you.
In the back first.
So back to camping real quick. So when that plan starts to come together, you guys come up with some ideas. There will be another public comment period, right?
I don't know if I wouldn't say, so the public comment period is over. If you look at the plan, it says what the campground is gonna have 3 distinct zones. There's a dispersed zone, a car zone, and a whatever in between zone. I
So
don't remember.
the camping plan is not a separate process that's coming next.
When I say input, what I mean is, the plan is done and it kind of tells you what it's gonna look like. But the actual design, when you have, and maybe the word isn't engineer, but when you actually have an architect or whatever a campground guru is that draws it up, that says, this is where you're gonna be able to meet the needs, like she was talking about, where you want car camping. And there's an area where people wanna have dispersed camping, and you wanna try to reduce the cars or whatever that are impacting that. They're gonna draw a picture that looks at this area, and that's where you get input. You can talk to people that have been coming here for a long time and say, what are the real needs? What are the volume of those needs? Can they be met with 12 campground rings, or do we need 30, or is 4 enough? How close do they need to be together? When you say you're camping with cars with friends, are you talking about, like yesterday I stopped the Bob and Ward cabin down in the bowling alley. There were 35 cars in one spot. They were there together. So is that the size group that you need, 1 campfire ring to 35 cars, or is your average Saline Valley user group like this, 3 cars, 4 cars, you know? And so getting those specific, like what type of people, I don't mean to like group that, but you know what I mean, like how is the usage of like, and I think that's what she means when she says that is, you try to design it so that you can meet everyone's needs. So it's not all just 1 picnic table, 1 fire ring, 1 parking spot. Isn't that nice? You know,
It'll change the dynamic here.
Okay, so what's
You know,
the dynamic?
big picture, if this looks like a lot of other national parks and public use places, if it starts to look, and going forward, I know it's big picture here, we're maybe many years away, but what my fear is if we have numbered campsites with a parking loop, and you gotta get on recreation.gov, and 6 months out, you gotta come first serve, pay $30 a night to be here, that's kind of,
That's more of we have the differentiation in Death Valley and other places of front country camping and back country camping. So this one, like Eureka Dunes, Homestake, those are all back country camping. So even if we say we're establishing sites, like with Eureka, and those of you who've been out there, there's fire pits, and it's getting a little bit nebulous now, but there's generally sites and a fire pit. And so it's just looking at trying to define that just a little bit more and being able to provide for every visitor that comes here. So I don't anticipate the headache of rec.gov out here. It would just be trying to focus on preserving this space and cleaning up all the off-road driving that's going out there and all the impacts that you can see as you're driving around. So it's just bringing it.
Would you be interested in seeing SPA put forward their vision of a camping plan?
I mean, here's how I would look at it. I would wait a couple years. I mean, you could think about it. What I would be very interested in you guys thinking about it and taking it seriously. Not that you're not taking it seriously, but understanding that there are these impacts, and the idea would be not necessarily to create a plan that says everything stays exactly like it is. Because a lot of the comments were along those lines, but actually say what are the impacts that are happening. The footprint is expanding, so the impacts. It is illegal to drive off road. So every single person that drives off of this road service is currently breaking the law. So how do we? Not that they're coming out here to cite them, but the point being, like, we're trying to get this place to be in line with, what's going to be minimum impact to the environment and make it legitimate. So if this side road that goes up to Lizard Lee's place were added to the map and the design, then you can actually drive there and camp along the places where people are camping. So it's going to look a lot like it does in some ways, but also you want to have that. So if usage does continue to expand and expand and expand, as we've seen throughout the park and even here at Saline Valley, you want to kind of have a limit. So it's not just a suburb that's going to grow as people, we welcome them all. You want to say, okay, these close-in areas that have been used forever and ever, maybe there's fire pits and they're sort of formalized a little bit. That may be moderately annoying, but those would be preserved pretty much as they are. But then at some point you cut a line and say, beyond this, it's tent camping and foot traffic only. You have to park and create places for people to park too. Don't just say they can't go there. You say if you're going to go there, park here. And these are the kinds of things you've probably seen in campgrounds that say there's tent camping only, there's dispersed use, and that minimizes the impact if you're just walking there and you don't. It's really the vehicles that are the biggest impact. So
dispersed camping doesn't mean no vehicles. Dispersed camping is through the whole campground. I don't know why you're focusing on this campground. It's a hot spring, natural warm springs area that doesn't actually call a campground.
but it's a developed campground. I mean, I realize that, but at this point, it's a heavily developed, heavily used.
Heavily used dispersed camping. I would agree with that. How is it developed?
Not sure.
You're not allowed to camp here.
No, I'm meaning that this is a developed site. This is the most developed backcountry site in Death Valley National Park. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, for people from the city that come in, it may feel kind of not developed, but the reality is every time I come here, there's people staying in the exact same spots. There's lawns, there's fences, there's tubs. So it's an undeveloped site would be, I don't know, if you go up to the mouth of Hunter Canyon, that used to be the BLM campsite up there. So that's now returning back to almost undeveloped, right? There's a creek that flows there, that vegetation's coming back. You can get the view, but it's dispersed. But if suddenly you had 100 people camping there, then you would have routinely, that's a problem.
Well, I just think you're encouraging growth by calling it a campground.
It's classified as a designated campground. Like it's just historically in Death Valley information that I read, it's always been all the developed campground. And the other thing is when you have infrastructure like pit toilets, that's an easy claim of that's now a campground. If you want to go full dispersed, and what comes to mind like Hunter Mountain or something in Forest Service, which has no pit toilets, no fire pits, really any infrastructure whatsoever to encourage camping. At this point, I think we're too far gone. It's definitely developed. There's a lot of folks coming in, and like most national parks, it's just getting busier and busier. So calling it a campground, I wouldn't just, from my personal experience, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I personally wouldn't see growth specifically because it's a campground, since it's all generally